When little Emma took the stand, the courtroom held its breath. Everyone thought they knew how this would end. But then, she spoke. The knock wasn't friendly. It was sharp, official, the kind that shatters a quiet morning and signals trouble. In her small farmhouse, 72-year-old Eleanor Harper felt it in her bones before she even reached the door. The fragile piece she'd carefully rebuilt since the accident. It was about to break. Her granddaughter, little 7-year-old Emma, stopped humming the tune her lost mother used to sing. Kids sense danger. Eleanor's knees protested as she rose. 72 years hadn't been kind, but they'd forged steel in her spine. She'd need it. She opened the door. A courier, stone-faced, no warmth. He thrust a thick brown envelope at her. Didn't wait. Just a nod, the crunch of tires on gravel, and he was gone, leaving Eleanor holding a grenade with the pin pulled. She closed the door, the latch clicking too loudly in the sudden stillness. Walked to the kitchen table, the envelope feeling heavy. Toxic. Courthouse. The return address was a punch to the gut. Her hands, usually steady enough to mend clothes or soothe a crying child, started to shake. She ripped the seal. The words inside were few. Cold, legal, Claire and Elliot, paternal. Every school event, every birthday, we build a case showing you're not just a guardian, you're her world. Eleanor nodded, grateful for the direction. The plan. They've barely seen her. 3 visits in 2 years. Christmas cards. That's it. Document. That too, Evelyn said, her pen scratching across paper. Absence speaks volumes. They worked through the morning. Emma played in the next room, occasionally bringing them crayon drawings or asking for juice. Normal. Precious. The very life they were fighting to preserve. We need a lawyer, Evelyn finally said, looking at their notes. Someone good, someone who won't be intimidated by Claire and Elliot's money. Eleanor's heart sank. I can't afford my nephew, Evelyn cut in. Tara Caldwell. She clerked for a judge before opening her own practice. Specializes in family law. Fights like hell for the underdog. But no buts. I'm calling her. This isn't just about money, Elle. This is about right and wrong. And Tara knows the difference. Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt since opening that envelope. Hope. Small. Fragile. But there. Evelyn made the call. Spoke in low, urgent tones. When she hung up, she was smiling. She'll be here tomorrow. No charge for the consultation. Eleanor's eyes filled. I don't know how to thank you. Beat them, Evelyn said simply. That's thanks enough. The next day, Tara Caldwell arrived in a sensible sedan. Young, but with eyes that had seen enough to know injustice when it walked in the room. She listened, asked sharp, precise questions, took notes in a leather-bound book. They're counting. On intimidation, she said finally. The letter, the legal language. It's designed to make you feel defeated before you even start. Eleanor nodded. That was exactly how she'd felt. But here's what they don't know, Tara continued, leaning forward. Judges aren't impressed by money. They're impressed by stability, by love, by what's best for the child. And from what you've told me, what's best for Emma is right here, with you. So we have a chance? Eleanor asked, hardly daring to believe. More than a chance, Tara said, her voice firm. We have Emma. And if she's old enough to express a preference, which at 7 she is, that carries weight. Significant weight. Eleanor felt the knot in her chest loosen slightly. What do we do now? We prepare, we document, and we don't let them see you sweat. Tara's smile was fierce. They expect you to roll over, to give up. That's their first mistake. And their second? Evelyn asked, underestimating what a grandmother will do to protect her granddaughter. Tara closed her notebook. I've seen it. Before. Never bet against it. For the first time since the letter arrived, Eleanor felt something other than fear. Determination. Purpose. The clarity that comes with knowing exactly what you're fighting for. Emma wandered in, curious about the visitor. Tara spoke to her directly, not down to her. Asked her questions about school, about her drawings, about her life. Emma answered easily, comfortably, secure in the knowledge that this was her home. These were her people. Tara caught Eleanor's eye, over Emma's head. A silent message. This is what we're showing the judge, this bond, this belonging. When Tara left, she took copies of everything. Birth certificates, school records, medical files, photos of Emma's life with Eleanor, evidence of a child thriving despite loss. Court date is in 2 weeks, she said at the door. Be ready, they'll try to rattle you. Don't let them, Eleanor nodded. 2 weeks, 14 days until she faced Claire and Elliot across a courtroom. 14 days to prepare for the fight of her life. A few days later, the fight moved to their turf. The courthouse. Bigger than Eleanor remembered. Colder. Impersonal glass walls reflecting suits and strained faces. This wasn't a place for heart. It was a place for rules designed by the powerful. Eleanor wore her Sunday best. A simple dress, the small tear near the hem a testament to making do. It felt inadequate, like bringing a prayer book to a gunfight. Emma, clutching her hand, wore a yellow ribbon in her hair. Fragile piece of sunshine against the looming storm. Her mother had worn one just like it, a lifetime ago. Evelyn walked beside them, a solid presence, her hand a steadying weight on Eleanor's back. Courage by proxy, and there they were. Claire and Elliot, waiting in the hall like predators, flanked by their high-priced lawyer, Mr. Cole, whose smirk screamed already won. Claire's eyes swept over Eleanor, a flicker of disdain in her mocking smile. You look quaint, she murmured, the word dripping condescension. Elliot didn't even grant them a glance. Too busy, too important. The bailiff's voice boomed, devoid of emotion. Case 482, custody of Emma Grace Holloway. The heavy doors swung open. Showtime. The storm wasn't coming. It was here. Eleanor felt. In the hallway, Eleanor sat on a bench near the water fountain, her heart hammering against her ribs. Emma curled under her arm, suddenly lighter, as if speaking her truth had lifted a weight she'd been carrying too long. That's when he approached, mid-30s, court ID clipped to his belt. He leaned down, speaking so softly Eleanor had to strain to hear. Ms. Harper, my name's Paul. I work in court records. His eyes darted around, checking for witnesses. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but there's something about Claire and Elliot's file. Documents that don't match what's in the system. Things that look altered. Eleanor's breath caught. If you need someone to look into it quietly, he continued, come find me. Ask for Paul in archives. Before she could respond, he was gone, vanishing down the corridor as if he'd never been there. Eleanor sat frozen, processing this new information. A potential lifeline, or a trap. Emma looked up at her, playing with the buttons on her jacket, oblivious to the bombshell that had just been dropped. You were so brave in there, Eleanor whispered, stroking her hair. Emma smiled, the simple, uncomplicated smile of a child who knows she's done right. I just told them the truth. Eleanor kissed the top of her head, her heart swelling. That's... When they returned to the courtroom, the atmosphere had shifted again. Now it was Claire and Elliot who looked uncomfortable, off balance. Judge Whitmore asked if either side had further evidence to present. Tara raised her hand. Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to request a formal financial audit of Claire and Elliot and subpoena bank records tied to a secondary corporation they failed to disclose in their petition. Elliot visibly paled. The confident businessman suddenly looked like someone who'd spotted a shark fin circling his boat. Claire leaned over, whispering harshly into his ear. Her perfect composure melted faster than ice in August. Their lawyer objected immediately, claiming harassment, delay tactics, a fishing expedition. But Judge Whitmore wasn't buying it. She'd seen enough cases to recognize when someone was hiding something. I'll allow the audit, she said firmly. Just like that, the power dynamic shifted. Claire and Elliot's perfect image was cracking, not just to the court but to everyone watching. What had begun as a simple custody hearing now carried the stench of deception and possible fraud. Eleanor sat back, her hands still trembling, but not from fear anymore. From something new, a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, the truth would be enough. When court adjourned for the day, they left through the rear exit, avoiding the reporters already gathering like vultures at the scent of scandal. Outside, the setting sun cast long shadows across the parking lot. The air felt cooler, cleaner somehow. Eleanor held Emma's hand as they walked to Evelyn's waiting car. But she couldn't shake the feeling that Claire and Elliot weren't done. That they wouldn't go quietly. That somewhere in their grand house behind closed doors and picture-perfect photos, darker plans were already taking root. Night fell heavy over Wren Hollow, but Eleanor Harper didn't sleep. She sat in the armchair, by the window, watching shadows shift across the yard, listening to the soft, steady breathing from Emma's room down the hall. The child had fallen asleep clutching her threadbare bear, that loyal guardian against nightmares. The same bear Claire had once called unsanitary during her rare visit last Christmas. Outside, headlights swept across the front of the house, a black car passing slowly. Then again 30 minutes later, not stopping, just watching, Eleanor didn't move from her vigil. This wasn't her first battle, not her first loss, not her first time facing down people who thought money trumped love. She'd buried a husband young, raised a daughter alone, then buried that daughter and her son-in-law after the accident that shattered their world. She'd picked up the pieces of a traumatized 7-year-old and somehow found a way forward. She knew about fighting impossible odds. Morning brought gray skies and the smell of rain, fitting weather for what lay ahead. Eleanor sat across from Tara Caldwell in the lawyer's small office, Paul from court records joining them, placing a thick folder on the desk between them. He looked nervous, like a man walking a high wire without a net. "I could lose my job for this," he said quietly. "But some things matter more than paychecks." Inside the folder were documents that told a story Claire and Elliot never wanted told. Real estate transfers with suspicious timing, tax filings that contradicted official records, legal memos about shell companies, and most damning, a series of wire transfers tied to an account they had never declared. A shell company that had been donating heavily to certain nonprofits connected to adoption agencies, ones with ties to a retired judge who had ruled in favor of associates of Claire and Elliot in a similar case years ago. The dots weren't fully connected yet, but they were there, waiting for someone brave enough to draw the lines between them. Tara scanned the files, her expression growing colder with each page turned. "They're not just lying about money," she said finally, looking up at Eleanor. "They're potentially buying outcomes, and they might have done it before." That afternoon, back at the courthouse, the change was visible. Claire and Elliot sat differently. Claire's jewelry seemed less bright, her perfect hair slightly less immaculate. Elliot whispered constantly to Mr. Cole, who now looked less like a confident predator and more like a man trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. And Eleanor? She sat taller. She didn't have designer clothes or a powerful job title, but she had something they couldn't buy: the truth. The courtroom fell silent as Tara presented the evidence, not with dramatic flair, but with steady, methodical precision. Page after page, document after document, showing how Claire and Elliot had misrepresented income, hidden assets, and possibly, though yet to be confirmed, interfered with past legal matters through unethical influence. Judge Whitmore, who had maintained a careful poker face until now, finally leaned forward, one finger tapping her pen against the edge of her desk. "This is a serious claim, Ms. Caldwell," she said. "Do you have corroborating information?" Tara glanced at Paul, who gave a subtle nod from the back of the room. "We are pursuing further corroboration, Your Honor," Tara replied, "including potential testimony from individuals aware of their financial dealings and patterns of manipulation." The room seemed to exhale collectively, because finally it wasn't just Eleanor's word against theirs. It wasn't just a grandmother begging to be believed while wealth and influence tried to bury her. It was a fight with actual weapons. A fair fight, maybe, for the first time. After the session, Emma tugged at Eleanor's hand as they walked toward the exit. "Grandma," she asked quietly, "are we going to be okay?" Eleanor crouched down despite her aching knees and brushed a strand of hair from the child's cheek. She smiled, not because she knew the answer with certainty, but because Emma needed to believe it. "Yes, baby," she said, "because we're telling the truth, and the truth, it's heavier than lies." But while they spoke in hushed tones in the courthouse hallway, across town in Claire and Elliot's sprawling home, panic was taking root. Claire slammed her crystal tumbler down on the marble countertop, the expensive scotch sloshing over the edge. "They're turning this into a conspiracy," she hissed. "Do you understand what that will do to us, our name, the business?" Elliot paced the kitchen, tie undone, shirt wrinkled, a man unraveling at the seams. He didn't answer her question, because the truth was, he did understand, all too well. Their lawyer, Mr. Cole, was no longer reassuring them of easy victory. His last call had been blunt. "If they connect those shell companies to you directly, you'll be facing more than just losing this custody case. You could be looking at serious investigations." Claire didn't care about investigations at that moment. She cared about losing, and she wasn't going to. Back at Eleanor's modest farmhouse, Paul contacted Tara again with more information. Documents, suggesting Claire and Elliot had hired a private investigator, attempting to dig up dirt on Eleanor. Her late husband's death, her job history, even rumors about mental health, none of it substantial or true, but enough maybe to create doubt if they leaked it. "They're playing dirty," Tara warned Eleanor that night. "They're trying to bait us into a mistake, leak something to the press, force a delay." But Eleanor didn't flinch. "Not anymore, let them dig, let them throw mud." She had nothing to hide. They were the ones with secrets. That night, as wind whipped against the shutters and moonlight painted silver streaks across the hardwood floor, Emma crawled into her grandmother's lap without a word. She didn't ask for a bedtime story. She didn't say she was scared. She just pressed her small body close and whispered, "Don't let them take me." And Eleanor, holding her tight, whispering into her hair, said what only a woman who had lost so much could say with certainty, "They won't." And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. They thought they had the upper hand. For weeks, Eleanor had sat quietly in that courtroom, holding Emma's hand, her fingers trembling not from fear, but from the weight of every memory she carried. Every birthday celebrated, every tear dried, every night spent reading stories by candlelight because the electricity had been cut off again. But this morning was different. The light pouring through the courthouse windows seemed sharper somehow. The air had a tension to it, like something just beneath the surface was about to crack wide open. Eleanor sat still. Tara Caldwell adjusted her notes. She had something to say, and for the first time since this fight began, the courtroom would finally listen. Tara rose slowly, respectfully, and addressed the judge with steady eyes. "Your Honor," she began, her voice low but firm. "In the past days we've heard arguments about income, property, and status. But today, we will talk about truth. We will talk about what happens behind closed doors. And we will talk about a little girl and what she remembers." The room fell silent. Even Claire and Elliot, with their polished shoes and false smiles, shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Tara continued, "With the court's permission, I'd like to present the testimony of Miss Carla Jennings. She worked in Claire and Elliot's household for 7 months as a live-in caregiver for Emma during a period of temporary arrangement prior to this formal custody filing." The judge nodded slowly. "Proceed." A video began playing on the courtroom screen. Carla appeared, mid-40s, plain clothes, minimal makeup, a nervous but determined look on her face. The kind of woman who had seen enough to know what pain looked like and when to stop staying quiet about it. She spoke clearly. "I worked for Mr. and Mrs. Elliot. At first, I thought I was lucky. The house was big, the pay was good. But it didn't take long before I realized something wasn't right." Carla paused in the video. Her eyes dropped. They never hit Emma, but sometimes Emotional wounds take longer to heal than bruises. Claire used to say things to her when no one else was around. Like, you should be grateful we even let you stay here, or your grandmother can't give you what we can. She can barely take care of herself. A gasp slipped from someone in the audience. Carla continued. She cried a lot. Not loud. Quiet. The kind of crying where a child hides under a blanket and prays no one hears. Once I walked in and found her sitting alone in the laundry room, hugging an old blanket, whispering to herself. Grandma would have let me eat dinner with her. Eleanor shut her eyes tight. A tear slipped down her cheek. The courtroom wasn't quiet anymore. People shifted in their seats, whispering to one another. The judge called for order, but Carla wasn't done. One night, Claire had a fundraiser to attend. Emma had a fever, 102 degrees. I told her. But she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Give her some medicine and put her to bed. I'm not canceling over a child's sniffle." Judge Whitmore, who had been mostly impassive, narrowed her eyes for the first time. When the video ended, the silence that followed was deafening. Tara took a breath and looked directly at Claire and Elliot, then back at the judge. "With that, Your Honor, we'd also like to submit a notarized statement from the family's previous nanny, who left for similar reasons, along with medical records confirming Emma's illness that week." No doctor was ever consulted by the Elliots. Claire stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. These are bitter employees, disgruntled, likely paid off, looking to destroy our name." The judge raised a hand. "Mrs. Elliott, sit down. One more outburst and you will be removed." The silence returned. Only this time it was cold. Then Tara turned to Eleanor, giving her the smallest nod. Eleanor stood slowly, her knees shaking beneath her long gray skirt. But she walked tall. "Your Honor," Eleanor began, her voice trembling, but growing stronger with each word. "I may not have a big house, I may not drive a fancy car, but I know my granddaughter's heart, and she knows mine. I've cared for her since she was born. I've bandaged her knees, taught her to pray, held her when her parents died." Eleanor looked down at Emma, who watched her with wide, adoring eyes. "She doesn't need a swimming pool. She doesn't need a private school. She needs safety, she needs truth. And she needs someone who loves her without strings attached." She paused. "And if that's not enough in today's world, then maybe the world is the one that's wrong." The judge leaned forward slightly, hands clasped beneath her chin. Tara stepped in again, this time holding a manila folder provided by Paul. "Your Honor, there is one more piece of evidence. Financial records suggesting Mr. Elliott attempted to improperly influence a court-appointed evaluator in a previous, unrelated matter." Elliott shifted. "That's a fabrication," he shouted, slamming his hand on the desk. "Mr. Elliott," the judge barked, "you are one interruption away from contempt." But it was too late. The facade had cracked. The judge had seen it. The audience had felt it. Even the gavel couldn't silence what now echoed in the courtroom. They weren't fit to raise this child, not Emma. The judge announced a recess for deliberation. Eleanor sat quietly, clutching the tiny stuffed bear Emma had brought that day. Tara sat beside her. "Whatever happens," Eleanor whispered, "thank you for not giving up on us." Tara nodded, but her eyes never left Claire and Elliot, who now sat pale and whispering furiously with Mr. Cole, their polished armor finally chipping away. They had underestimated a grandmother's love. They had underestimated truth, and now they had run out of places to hide. The courtroom felt colder than usual, not because of the air conditioning or the draft that always crept in from the back hallway, but because everyone inside knew something heavy was about to fall, like a curtain before the final act of a long, painful play. Eleanor sat completely still. She wasn't praying for a miracle anymore. She had already received it, in the courage of a child, in the truth finally told, and in the eyes of a lawyer who fought like family. Now, she just wanted peace. The judge returned, files in hand, expression unreadable. Elliot's tie was loose. Claire's lipstick had faded. The silence clung to them like wet clothes. "Ladies and gentlemen," the judge began, voice steady. "After reviewing all submitted evidence, including testimonies, financial records, and the child's own statements, this court has reached a decision regarding the custody of Emma Grace Holloway. Eleanor held her breath. Emma squeezed her hand. The primary consideration in any custody case, Judge Whitmore continued, looking directly at Claire and Elliot, is the best interest of the child. Not financial status, not social standing, but the environment that offers the most stability, love, and emotional security. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. The evidence presented regarding Mr. and Mrs. Elliott's financial dealings raises serious concerns about their judgment and ethics. Furthermore, the testimony regarding their treatment of Emma during previous arrangements suggests a fundamental lack of understanding of her emotional needs. Claire started to whisper something to Mr. Cole, but he subtly shook his head. Conversely, the judge went on, turning her gaze to Eleanor. Ms. Harper has demonstrated unwavering dedication to Emma's well-being, despite significant financial hardship. The bond between them is evident and profound. Emma herself expressed a clear and articulate desire to remain with her grandmother. Eleanor felt tears welling up, but she didn't let them fall. Not yet. Therefore, Judge Whitmore declared, her voice ringing with finality, it is the ruling of this court that permanent custody of Emma Grace Holloway is granted to her maternal grandmother, Eleanor Harper. The gavel struck, once, loudly. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then a soft sob broke the stillness. It came from Eleanor. Emma threw her arms around her grandmother's neck, burying her face in her shoulder. "We get to stay together, Grandma," she whispered. "Yes, baby," Eleanor choked out, holding her tight. "We get to stay together." Tara Caldwell placed a gentle hand on Eleanor's back. Evelyn, sitting behind them, reached forward and squeezed her shoulder. Across the aisle, Claire stood up abruptly, her face a mask of disbelief and fury. Elliot pulled her back down, whispering urgently. Mr. Cole gathered his papers, his smirk long gone, replaced by the weary look of defeat. As Eleanor and Emma walked out of the courtroom hand in hand, the reporters waiting outside swarmed them, but Eleanor didn't see them. She only saw the path ahead, a path that was still uncertain, still challenging, but one they would walk together. Later that evening, back in the little farmhouse, the kettle sang again. Emma was asleep in her bed, the worn cloth bear tucked beside her. Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, the court order lying beside the yellowed photo of her daughter and son-in-law. She picked up the photo, tracing their smiling faces with a trembling finger. "I kept my promise," she whispered to them. The house was quiet. The world outside Wren Hollow might still move fast, filled with noise and ambition, but inside, in that small kitchen, bathed in the warm glow of a single lamp, all that mattered was the steady rhythm of a little girl's breathing from the next room, and the enduring strength of a grandmother's love. 6 months later, Eleanor stood at the kitchen sink, washing breakfast dishes. Through the window, she could see Emma in the backyard, teaching her new puppy, a rescue mutt named Buddy, to fetch a tennis ball. The child's laughter floated through the open window, a sound that still felt like a miracle every time Eleanor heard it. So much had changed since the court battle. Claire and Elliot had disappeared from their lives completely. No appeals, no further contact. The financial investigation that followed the custody case had apparently given them more pressing concerns than fighting for a child they'd never really wanted. Tara had helped Eleanor set up a small trust for Emma's education with the settlement, money that came from a separate lawsuit against the Elliott's shell company. Not enough to make them rich, but enough to ensure Emma's future was secure. The farmhouse had a new roof now. The kitchen had been updated. Emma's room had been repainted in her favorite color, yellow like sunshine. But the most important things hadn't changed at all. The way Emma still crawled into Eleanor's lap during thunderstorms. The way they still baked cookies together on Sunday afternoons. The way they visited the cemetery once a month, bringing fresh flowers to the graves of Emma's parents. The phone rang, interrupting Eleanor's thoughts. It was Evelyn, calling to confirm their plans for the weekend farmers market. As Eleanor chatted with her friend, she watched Emma through the window. The child had abandoned the fetch game and was now lying in the grass, the puppy sprawled across her chest, both of them looking up at the clouds, content, safe, home. Eleanor remembered the day the letter had arrived, the fear that had gripped her heart, the certainty that she would lose everything. That Eleanor Harper wasn't supposed to win. A 72-year-old grandmother with limited means against wealth and influence. The world would have understood if she'd given up, if she'd surrendered to the inevitable. But Eleanor knew something the world often forgets. That love isn't just an emotion, it's a force. It's steel in your spine when your body wants to collapse. It's finding strength when there should be none left. It's standing tall when the world expects you to kneel. And sometimes, just sometimes, when that love is pure enough, fierce enough, true enough, it tips the scales back toward justice. This is why we tell these stories. Because in a world that worships power and privilege, we need reminders that the human spirit can still prevail, that ordinary people can face extraordinary challenges and emerge not just surviving, but standing, that what looks like weakness to the world might actually be the deepest kind of strength. At Still Standing Souls, we believe in the power of these stories, the ones that remind us what it means to be truly human, to love beyond reason, to fight beyond hope, to stand when everything says fall, because the most beautiful souls aren't those that never face darkness. They're the ones that walk through it and somehow keep their light burning, the ones that remain standing. Join us at Still Standing Souls on YouTube, where every story matters, every battle counts, and every soul that refuses to be broken finds a home. Subscribe now, because somewhere out there someone needs to hear that they're not fighting alone. Still Standing Souls, your story isn't over yet.